Hello and welcome back to DROD. Today I am looking at DROD Architects Edition tutorial by Az. So last year, Abs kinda went on a building spree where he was doing these tutorial holds for all of the holds, or for all of the engines. So he had a set of levels for Architects Edition, and then he had another set of levels for Journey to Rooted Hold, introducing all of the, or tutorializing all of the elements in that, and then another one for City Beneath. And then he also did a bunch of these for RPG, which we are going to be getting one of those later in this series. There were some issues with him producing duplicate content, where he would just copy rooms and then use them across the various tutorials, and this ended up causing some arguments between ASB and the hold administrators. And unfortunately, I think ASB actually got banned due to his behavior on the forum. So yeah, there are a few ASB holds. I did some testing on the RPG ones, so I'm going to be familiar with those. Yeah, so there was, I guess, a little bit of drama around these holds, but we'll see how the hold... I haven't played any of his actual DROD ones. I've heard a lot about them, but we'll see how this actually holds up on its own when I'm playing through it. Levels getting used to basic movement principles, like how to walk around and swing your sword. Move by default, the key is in your numeric keypad. You can move in all 8 compass directions, as well as wait a turn by hitting the central button by default. Yes. So one criticism I did see of these is there's kind of trying to figure out who the audience of these holds were for, because if you do the Architects Edition one, it just kind of assumes that you know nothing. And then if you do the Journey to Rooted Hold one, apparently it also just assumed that you knew nothing. And so if you're playing all of his holds back to back, you're kind of getting tutorialized over the same stuff again and again. But if I assume that this hold, at the very least, is for somebody who has never played DROD, we will judge it on that merit. Okay, so I had to move diagonally, broken walls, and rotating. Yeah, good things to know. This is an orb. Orbs are... okay. Fill a button called an orb. Yep. So, doors and broken orbs reset to the original state. That is true. Good to know. Yep. The walls are back. The door is closed. Force arrows. You can walk sideways, back and forth. You can't go against a force arrow, though. Alright, so that was basic movement. Stairs exit the level and take you to the next one once you step on them. They sure do. Monsters and elements introduce you to more elements now that you've mastered how to walk and turn your sword. Right, but this isn't going to introduce everything. Probably just roaches. By elements, this is Architects Edition. Maybe we'll get trapdoors? Green door, that's an element. Yep. I actually like how this is set up. That's good timing, because if you approach the roach directly, it does slide on your sword, so it demonstrates that. It's good. Green door explains what it does. Yeah. So vertical preference. It doesn't spell vertical preference out explicitly. It didn't need to. But I guess this is demonstrating that, yeah, it will slide on the corner. Checkpoints. I guess that's an element. Checkpoints don't have any puzzle potential. I did see a suggestion on the forums once for an element that would use checkpoints as an actual element, but I think the general consensus of the community was that that was a terrible idea. And for what it's worth, I agree. It would be pretty bad. I don't think that having them as a puzzle element is a good idea. But the suggestion was to have slippery ice where you step on a tile and then you just keep sliding in that direction forever. And if you slide across a checkpoint, you could then restore to that checkpoint and not be sliding. Which, first of all, I don't think that's how the checkpoints even work, because then you'd have to have separate code checking for that. Because when you load on the checkpoint, it should just load you in to that. Anyway, that is completely irrelevant to this. Checkpoints exist. If you die, you respawn on them. The last checkpoint you step on is the one you'll be taken to. Alright, I'm not going to bother demonstrating that. And we get trapdoors as well. Trapdoors turn into pits. And you have to pop all of the trapdoors. Do that. I very easily could have had a higher score than that. So green doors and monsters reset. Do not reset because I've cleared the room. I wonder if he's going to get into that at some point. If you kill some of the monsters but not all of them. Because that was something that was tutorialized in King Dugan's Dungeon first level. All the way back then. Very first level of DROD. I did demonstrate killing some monsters and leaving a room and re-entering it for the monsters to respawn. One of the very first things you learn in DROD. You play all the holds chronologically. Yeah, so anyway, that doesn't reset, but trapdoors do. This is a roach queen. It will run away from me and it will spawn roaches. However, I will be able to kill it, and thus not demonstrate the fact that it does in fact spawn roaches. Evil Eyes, yeah. Is it going to be faster to... Okay. I really want to optimize this room. I got a first place on that last room, now I'm addicted. Okay, first place. Killed the eye. That is something I really do appreciate about easy rooms. Or rather, about the optimization system in DROD, is that if you have an easy room, optimizing the room can make an easy room a little bit more interesting, because obviously this was completely trivial, but the fact that I had to think about my sword orientation and possibly waiting for the parity, which I didn't have to end up doing, but that is an option. I guess if I was waiting, I would have just been facing it, and that would have worked. But yeah, optimizing rooms can make them more interesting. Wraithwings, they can fly, they run away, once you're too close to them. Okay, I think this is actually the orientation I want. Was that optimal? Let's find out. It was, okay. I wasn't expecting Wraithwings this early. Wraithwings in a group behave differently, they sure do. Blue doors do not... do not clear. Or do not toggle. Yeah, so what's going on here is that Wraithwings, if they see a Wraithwing on the other side of you, then they'll become aggressive. But when they're all on the same side of you, or when there's only one left, at which point it is on the same side of you as itself, they do run away from you. Advanced elements and techniques. Okay, Goblin, Serpents, Tar, advanced techniques. Okay, well, can't turn your sword, but it can backswipe. Sure. So one criticism I had heard of these holds, which I'm starting to feel, is that the modern tutorial style of DROD is to assume that the player is somebody who can solve basic puzzles. And so you have the puzzle and try to get the player to intuit what the correct solution to the puzzle is. Whereas this hold is just very much hand-holding you all the way through and just explicitly spelling out what you have to do. Like this, for example. Like even this room. just without the scroll, would have been more within the current sensibilities of the DROD community, I think. Because without a scroll, you can experiment with various things, but backswiping is the only thing that's going to get you out of this. And so your moveset is very limited, but you will figure it out. But we will instead just explicitly spell it out to the player. All right, no need to clear all of the tar. Yeah, you can only cut it on a flat surface. Black doors don't exist yet, so we don't have to worry about that. So yeah, tar babies act like roaches, and they do need to be cleared if the room started uncleared. But this room didn't have any monsters in it from the start, so it doesn't matter if I leave a roach alive or not, or like an enemy alive or not. The room will still be considered cleared. This is going to explicitly demonstrate that you can't cut corners. Sure. Tar Mother. Bosses looking monsters. Tar Mother every 30 turns. They're required to clear the room. Yep. Tar is nice because you can kind of just... Actually, just back up. Make this easier. Tar is nice because you can just dig through it and not have to worry about getting stuck, which is, you know, getting surrounded by tar. As a completely new player to DROD, it's going to feel really uncomfortable and you're going to hate it, probably. But as a DROD veteran, getting swallowed by tar is not an issue at all. You just kind of... In fact, it protects you a lot of the time from hordes of monsters. Like if there's a brain and a whole bunch of tar babies spawning on the outside, getting surrounded by tar would actually make my life a lot easier. Alright, so this is a potential break, something to watch as an architect. If I leave the room here, because there were monsters left in the room, this wasn't cleared, so I do actually have to come back and clear this again. Now the timing's going to be different, because I started in the farther entrance. So that's just something to watch. If you're an architect who's building rooms involving tar, if this green door had been placed like here, I would have made the room permanently unsolvable by getting past it. The green door being at the edge of the room does solve that issue, and yeah, so you can see it's happened again here. This room simply demonstrates the tar mothers do not have to be connected to the tar in order to grow them. It sure does. And if you hadn't have said anything, I would have still gotten the lesson, but serpents will not move diagonally every 5 turns. They alternate between horizontal and vertical reference. If you're in a straight line, they move straight to your head and don't turn. If the serpent is stuck in a place where they cannot move at all, they will shrink 1 tile per turn, and once they are 2 tiles long, they will die the next turn they get stuck. Sure. Given the timing and spacing, this would have actually been a very good spot to mention that serpents can't move onto scrolls. This is important, though, because serpents are unstabbable. They're still required to clear the room. Yeah. Alright, we'll kill you here. Serpents cannot cross scrolls or force arrows in any direction, period. Alright. Roaches can, though. Serpent-free zone. Yeah, and because there's no tar in the room, you can put the green door in the corridor instead of at the edge, and it doesn't cause any issues because we can't reseed the room by creating a tar baby before leaving it. Once you drink a mimic potion, stepping on it, you'll be forced to place the mimic before continuing, sure. You move the location of choice with a numpad for movement and hit the wait button to place it, or you can just use the mouse. Mimics will normally move exactly as you move, but they slide the way roaches can, so okay. Yeah. So this is actually a puzzle. Use the walls for leverage. Mimics cannot be placed on open yellow doors and trapdoors, period. Sure. I don't think the word period was entirely necessary, but it's fine. Could have been a little bit more efficient if I had a better orientation, but I didn't. Roach queens cannot spawn on trapdoors or yellow doors, period. Okay. So yeah, she's just never gonna spawn. And then there's a goblin. It will try to approach you, but avoid your sword if you're too close, like Wraithwings. Not at all like Wraithwings, actually. They are afraid of your sword. They are not afraid of B-throw. Wraithwings are afraid of B-throw. Okay, that's what the second part says. Fair enough. Wraithwings will try to sneak around your back and kill you. Yeah, and in groups, goblins do not care. Oh, there's a blue door. Good thing we learned about that on the previous level. Have to leave in order to get out. I wonder if this scroll's a reminder. It sure is. Okay. Brain drain. Brains and invisibility potions. And invisibility potions do matter. Brains on their own will not do anything, but are still required to clear the room. It is kind of funny that they do have turn order. It's just the nature of how monsters in this game work. Also, interesting that for an Architect's Edition hold, you've been using tile sets that aren't from Architect's Edition. Brains will make enemies take the shortest path to you. Yep, they sure do. Brains will make the Roach Queen behave somewhat weirdly. Compared to roaches, the Roach Queens will just try to find the quickest path to the center of the room. That's not entirely accurate. The way that they actually work, I guess I can just quickly spell this out. So right now, if this Roach Queen was not a Roach Queen, if it was a roach, the brain would tell it to move to the east. Because that's how brained roaches work. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, I'm just going to gloss over the fact that that's how roaches work. So what the Roach Queen then does, is it sees, the brain told me to move this way, but that way's probably dangerous because the brain's telling me to kill something. I'm going to run away instead, so I'm going to move in this direction. So it would move on to this tile. However, if I wait, you'll see it in fact doesn't move on to that tile. This is what this is referring to. If it's trying to move, instead of trying to move orthogonally, anytime that it's been told to do an orthogonal move, it will then look at the center of the room and move diagonally towards the center of the room, if possible. So yeah, it's on the center of the room, so that's why it's going back and forth. So here, it's constantly trying to go towards me. Brain's telling it to go here. So it's being told to go into the wall, and then it's sliding. However, if I go to the north of it, yeah. Now you can see here, it was trying to go north, or I guess here, it was trying to go north. Because of the brain telling the roach to go north, it decides to go south instead, and then it goes diagonally towards the center of the room. And yeah, let's see. These two columns are in fact the center of the room, which is why it does what it does. Brained Roach Queens are one of the weirdest enemies in the game, to be fair. Yeah, brains create arrows as obstacles. So yeah, that roach is just following as if it didn't have a brain path, because it doesn't. This roach is trying to get to me, but then it gets confused because of the brain. So here, the brain is telling it to move through the brain, because it doesn't see the brain itself as an obstacle. Monsters can move, so they aren't obstacles, because they might not be there. But then, because the roach doesn't have a path to me, it ends up just making an unbrained move. Yeah, the scroll does specify that as well. Brains will make soul wraithwings behave more unpredictably. They make them prefer orthogonal moves. Brained wraithwings, who knows? Yeah, especially groups of wraithwings. Wraithwings are also an incredibly complicated monster. They're incredibly simple if there's one Wraithwing, but because they look at the position of other Wraithwings before moving, when you get a bunch of them, they can be really hard to predict, especially since the ones that are earlier in the turn order will move before the ones later in the turn order, and then the ones later in the turn order will assess their movement based on the new positions of the ones that have already moved. Goblins pathfind around walls. It makes them actively try to avoid your sword as well, more than normal. Is that true? I don't know about that. Like, it does move slightly differently while brained because it's trying to get around the sword, but that's just because it sees the exclusion zone of the sword. Like, it doesn't want to move next to the sword, but it still wants to try to flank around to get to you. And so it does more flanking moves around the entire zone of tiles around your sword. It is a little bit different. Brains, yeah, they no longer alternate. However, did the scroll specify? Yeah, the brain doesn't understand diagonals. Or rather, it does understand diagonals, it doesn't understand that the serpent can't move diagonally. Brains do not affect Tar Mother behavior at all. It's not entirely true. But maybe when we get to the promised invisibility potions, they'll get into that. Because brains can affect Tar Mothers if you are invisible. I guess I might as well just spell it out. When you're invisible, anything if you're not within 5 tiles, I move here. I'm in range of the eye, or I'm in the eye's line of sight, but I'm invisible, so it doesn't see me. So a Tar Mother, if you're invisible, the Tar Mother will not spawn. However, if you are in range of a brain, the brain will tell every monster in the room where you are. So even if the Tar Mother is out of range, if a brain is in range of the invisibility, the brain will notify the Tar Mother and she will still do her spawning. Alright, this sure is a room. Don't think you needed quite that many eyes to make your point. Picking up a second invisibility potion cancels it, and they'll reset. And when in range of an invisibility potion... Okay, so it does specify this. Yeah, they stop moving, start moving. It's not going to specify it specifically with regards to Tar Mothers. Oh, and also, yeah, I'm out of range of the brain, so here they're no longer making brain moves. So, yeah, invisibility and brains is a very powerful combination. because it allows you to remotely manipulate monsters without being close to them, and it also allows you to manipulate monsters up close without having the effects of a brain on them. Yeah, so very powerful combination of elements. You can do a lot with them together. Application of everything we've learned, as well as the one last element, spider. Sure. Whoops. Diagonally. Spiders will blend in with the blue tiles of the palace setting because of the matching color. The old spider graphic. The old spider graphic would blend in with the blue tiles of the palace setting. But yeah, other than that, they are just roaches. If you don't have... Right, okay. You have open-ended stuff to do. So yeah, on spiders, I think the old spider, I'm actually not sure because I've never actually played in the Architects Edition. Like, I actually started playing DROD after the release of The Second Sky. The Second Sky wasn't my first hold, but there was a sale on GOG.com when it came out, and that's what got me into the series, even though Gunthrow ended up being the first hold I played through. I've mentioned this before, but I started with King Dugan's Dungeon. I thought, this series got a ton of praise on the forums, on the discussions, saying it was basically the best puzzle game of all time. And as a puzzle game enthusiast, I was excited to try it. I tried DROD. I got really, really bored of it because the first few levels of King Dugan's Dungeon were barely even puzzles, and kind of just didn't like the game at all. But then about a week later, bought the bundle, which had the first 4 games as well as DROD RPG, and decided that, people had said so much about the game that I wanted to give it one more try, so I looked into it, and the recommendation was that you start with Gunthrow. I tried that. Gunthrow is a fantastic experience, starting from the beginning. So that's generally my stance on this now. If anybody wants to get into DROD, I will say start with DROD 4, Gunthrow and the Epic Blunder. If you're curious about the history of DROD, you can play King Dugan's Dungeon, but as a standalone experience, it's honestly not that good. It's more just there as a historical curiosity at this point. If you are a fan of DROD and want to see how DROD began, I would recommend it in that context. Anyway, yeah, so now... but anyway, the point of that is, I haven't played in Architects Edition, so what I understand is that spiders had a blue look, were the same color as the tiles of the palace tile set, which is no longer used either. Except for their eyes, which would show occasionally, I think. But then I believe they were changed once we got new tile sets to the modern spider graphic, with the effect that you can see a spider if it moved on its previous turn or if it's within 2 tiles of you, but otherwise it is invisible. And then, of course, in Gunthrow and the Epic Blunder, actually, DROD 4, which introduced shallow water, spiders were finally given something that differentiates them from roaches, which is that they can cross shallow water, which makes spiders and shallow water actually an interesting set of elements to work with together. You can do some unique things with them. Anyway, a simple test, how hard can it be? It doesn't look too bad. I did just record some war earlier today, so some Came War. So compared to that, this is all going to be pretty straightforward. Okay, let's just deal with that. Roach queens don't spawn on scrolls, by the way. This room requires you to be clever with your resources to win. Basically, I need to get the serpents killed on the evil eyes. Evil Eye is a pretty simple monster, but the fact that it can be, it has an awake state and a sleeping state, and that you can toggle them from a distance actually makes them fairly powerful. There's a lot you can do with them. Okay, this is the unrequired room tutorial. There hasn't been an explicit secret room tutorial, though. Okay, let's actually just go down here, I feel like. This is going to be a better environment for dealing with the goblins. Okay, I need to drop all the trapdoors. This is a classic type of room. Might have been a bit aggressive here. Yeah. Okay, we'll just kill you. Managed to time that nicely, though. And with a lot of horde rooms, once you've started, gotten a handle on things. Oh, that was 3 trapdoors. I just happened to have the perfect timing on. That was nice. But yeah, once you start clearing out the room, it just gets easier and easier. Right, that was not required. You successfully mastered the tutorial. Shows you all of DROD 1.0's elements. Now go show those monsters who's boss. No secrets here, so I'm guessing that it would have said 0%. I would have said 0% if there was a secret, I'm pretty sure. So 0 out of 10 tutorial. Didn't tutorialize secret rooms. I'm trying to think. AE. Was a Master Wall a thing in that as well, or did that come out in Journey to Rooted Hold? I don't actually know if Master Walls were part of the base game. And guys, if you're a DROD veteran and you've been watching this long, let me know. I'm actually genuinely curious about that. Anyway, yeah, so this hold, it kind of gives you a very brief overview of everything from the original DROD, so I guess it does what it says. Does what it says it will. It's not really a puzzle hold so much as it's just a demonstrative hold that just kind of, here's a thing and here's what it does, but then it doesn't really do anything with any of that. Obviously the last level was the most interesting because you had to actually do some puzzles. But yeah, that was DROD Architects Edition tutorial. Which leaves me with 2 more DROD holds, but I think that's it for recording for today, so I'll get onto those. And probably record another batch, which I guess, I don't even know why I'm bothering to say this, because they're all going to be post-dated. I'm going to upload, I'm uploading 4 holds today. Just one video will be released today. But yeah, so I did Accelerated Flooding, was the first one for today. So yeah, I'll continue with this next time. 2 more holds to go, and then 4 RPG holds. I guess I'll start on those on the next recording session as well. I will see you then.